Hi, everybody. So today is the day one of ethics intensive writing plan for UPSC CSE Mains 2025. And we have posted four questions on the topic number one. Another set of questions will be posted tomorrow, again at 9 before 9 a.m. Right? So you all have to post your copies scanned in the group. And whenever we have time, we'll be evaluating it. We'll try our best to evaluate all copies and each and every answer. But sometimes, due to lack of time and other commitments, we are not able to do this. So these videos will going to be helpful to you in aligning your answers with the what we can call it as the better answers. Not the if our model answer is not the best one, at least it is a better version of it, or at least give you what should be the approach while addressing these kind of questions. So let's start with the first question number one. Question number one is a PYQ which says, without commonly and shared and widely entrenched moral values and obligation, neither the law nor democratic government nor even the market economy will function properly. So this question basically highlights the importance of shared value, the internalization of ethics in a given society. So if there is no internalization of ethics in a given society, the society, uh, no law, no government, no market economy can function in that country. You must have seen the examples of the tribal countries and also the countries where uh, terrorism prevails, religious fanaticism prevails. They have not been able to perform on any parameters. So there has to be some internalization of ethics. Ethics is what? The right compass. What is the right thing to do? All people should know this, right? So in this question, it is better that we first start with the definition of these keywords, like what is moral values and obligation, and then we go on explaining how law, democracy, and economy depends on this shared values and internalization of ethics. Here we can use examples, and also in conclusion, we will have to reaffirm the foundational role of ethics, that without ethics, no institution, no external institution can function properly. There is a very famous saying that ethics is the first line of defense. Law enforcement is only remedial and reactive. And ethics, also the personal ethics, right? The self ethics. So there are two kinds of restraints on a person's action. The first one is, and the most important one is self restraint. This comes through ethics, and the second one is the legal enforcement. So legal enforcement always comes later. Self restraint and self ethics is prior. So this should be commonly entrenched, widely entrenched in a given society for the better functioning of law, democratic government, and the also market economy. Okay, so moral values are those foundational beliefs which are held by society, right? Values is something that which is of importance. What we call as value is attached to importance, and obligations are the duties which arise from these entrenched values. Okay, and together they form this what we call it invisible infrastructure of any formal institution. Visible infrastructure is what is quite evident, right? But invisible structure is one which is responsible for enduring, uh, which is responsible for better functioning and long-lasting functioning of any institution, right? Gandhiji said that a man is but a product of his thought, what he thinks he becomes. So we need people to have good thoughts, and these good thoughts will reflect in different institutions, the laws, the democratic government, and also in better functioning of the market economy. Now, first of all, highlight like how law functions smoothly only with ethical consensus, right? So here you can use the quotations of Bhagavad Gita. We have mentioned this. In Japan, there is a very good example that post-earthquake, people were not haphazardly doing the things. They were not. They were showing their good conduct through queues, theft-free zones. Even during the COVID times, the Japanese government didn't impose many restrictions, but people were following it meant by their own conscience, right? Their own understanding, because that value of discipline is widely entrenched in Japanese society. Okay. This helps in enforcement of law also. Many examples have been given here. You can go through it. Then democracy also requires civic morality to survive. Because in democracy, the people's character, people's involvement is of utmost importance. And the people who are involved, both in getting elected and also electing, needs to be of high character. Then needs to understand the basic ethics, right? So this you can use with. There are examples, a lot of it. And then the market economy. How does it operate on these invisible moral contracts? You must have heard about environmental, social, and governance norms (ESG) norms, right? They also highlight the importance of ethics. The companies which follow ethical principles have more investors, more long-term investors who are important for the long-term sustainability of the country. For example, Tata Trust is a very good example of this, right? Even all those MNCs, they are doing some sort of ethical activities. That's why they have been um, their work has been widely recognized in various domains, right? So these are the things you can cite example of Narayan Murthy that he insists on transparent accounting long before it became a compliance necessity. There are the Tata Trust. It used to do corporate social responsibility even before it became a part of Companies Act. So this is what are the good examples that you can use it. Finally, we should say that institutions we can build go on building the institutions, but they can only impose a structure. Only the this shared ethical values that are deeply entrenched in the society, which will give life to these law, democracy, and markets. Without this internalized morality, no external system will remain relevant. They all will remain hollow. This could be a good example to sum up the debate. Let's go to the next question. It is often said that politics and ethics do not go together. What is your opinion in this regard? So this question highlights that there is a prima facie and apparent contradiction between politics and ethics because politics represents power and ethics represents responsibility, responsible action. And with power, there is you can what you call it. Uh, there is a saying by Aristotle. He says, "Power and virtue cannot coexist." So power corrupts the virtues of a person, right? And there is Lord Acton who said, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." So politics represents power, ethics represents responsible action. These two do not go together. First of all, define what is politics. Politics is exercise of power for collective decision making, while ethics is compass that directs human action towards good. When power is divorced from ethics, tyranny results. This has been this has been the case in every society. You know, Hitler was a powerful person, but not an ethical person. He wreaked havoc. His rule uh, killed millions of people, right? Innocent people. Mussolini, Stalin. These were the people who were these at the center of politics, but their rule wreaked havoc on the people, not only their so-called perceived enemies, but also on their own country, right? So now you can say that why politics is often seen as morally bankrupt, or why there is a divergence, dichotomy, and between politics and ethics. First is electoral competition. The politicians have this narrow mindset. They are looking for this short-term gains. For this, they can do anything. They can do propaganda, right? They can do post-truth politics, what we call in today's world. They can pass on misinformation. They can propagate hate politics, communalism, and whatnot. So electoral competition, then populism, then rationalization of immoral acts in the name of public interest, right? This is also thing. Then Chanakya, very good example that he wants that the king who is morally weak loses both power and respect. So he was the one who highlighted the importance of moral superiority. And they should be morally the king should be on morally high ground. Otherwise, he will lose both power and respect. Yet, ethical politics is possible and necessary. You should highlight the next thing. Right? Dharma-based leadership, as Gita suggests. Then Nelson Mandela, good example. There are then politics. You can say Mahatma Gandhi was also doing politics, but it was not bereft of ethics. Okay? Martin Luther King, very good example. You can cite other examples as well. We have cited few here, like Aruna Roy, who used RTI not just as administrative tool but a moral force. Right? So these can be used. Ethical leadership creates a cultural shift. This could be another dimension of this question, which could be a way forward, right? Jacinda Ardern, you must have heard her name. She was the previous uh, Prime Minister of New Zealand. So she focused on empathy-driven politics, and this was a reason why her name was very much in news in ethical domains. Next is Uma Maheshwari, an ICE officer of Tamil Nadu. She worked with political leaders to eliminate bonded laborers, Bekar, and this was a good example where politics and ethics went together. Then six tenets of Seva. These are deeply political, ethical, and these are used for community governance and welfare. So there are cases where politics and ethics go together. And you can use Gandhiji, who says that politics without principles is a sin. Okay? And finally, you can say that ethics and politics may seem divergent, distant, but the true leadership of any country lies in uniting the two of them, where power is exercised for collective good and not personal gain. This was the message of all the great people, starting from Kautilya and also other leaders who had good name in the history for their rule. Third is discuss how deeply embedded moral. You can also use very historical examples in that, Ashoka and others. Discuss how deeply embedded moral values in society influence effectiveness of governance and economic frameworks in long run. So this question is very much, you can say, some content of question number one can be used here, right? It has overlapping similarities. Start with moral values, their social significance, and their impact on governance, law, administration, and compliance. Then economy, and give examples and trinity of the values. So question one's content will be, you can say, around 80 to 90% of that content can be used here. So we won't be discussing it. We'll be providing model answer of it. Next is, can a public official personal ethical maintain personal ethical standards while navigating the morally gray zones of public administration? So gray zone where there is no clear-cut guidelines, no clear-cut guidelines. And when there is no clear-cut guidelines, it is the personal moral compass that serves as a guide. So you can say that ethical standards are the principles of guiding right conduct. Can a public official maintain personal ethical standard while navigating the moral gray zone of public administration? Yes, he can. If his own ethical standards are in place, if he's a person of high integrity, probity, right? You can use these words. And Gita says that Arjun, in case of ambiguity, you must not escape. Escapism is not a solution. Rather, you should align your actions with dharma. Whenever there is ambiguity, you should think whether this action will be accordance with the dharma or not. There is also Gandhi's talisman. Gandhiji said, whenever you are in confusion, see whether my actions are going to benefit the last person, Antode. What will be the impact on the last person? This also can be used to navigate through the gray zones. So you can say with the subheading that gray zones demand not just rules but also moral judgment. There are cases where officers face dilemma of loyalty versus public interest, rules versus empathy, and then this is a gray zone. They have to follow some personal ethics or some rules or some principles which would help them navigate through these challenges. Then battlefield of Gita shows that one should use their vivek, discriminative wisdom, to navigate through these situations, ambiguous situations. Then Krishna Iyer, he talked about Justice Krishna Iyer, he talked about balancing law and compassion in judgments, and this was there, right? You can cite Talisman also. Ethical officials use principles as compass in fog. So this is a fog, this ambiguity, this gray zone is like a fog. And there is a time where you use these principles. Smita Sabharwal, very good example. African Ubuntu ethics. You can read about this here. And Ramayana's Bharata. Bharata did not rule in his own name. He only served as a trustee of Ram. Right? So he showed a very good example of personal ethics where this gray zone he could have used this for short-term gains, but he didn't. So this is a good example here. Next is systems can reward ethical conduct over time. So ethical conduct will be rewarded if done with consistency. This we have seen in all the domains, whether it is the domain of politics, law, market economy, or any other field. Any other field. If a person is ethically sound, right, they will going to what we call it satyameva jayate, because if person follows the truth, they are going to be the ultimate winner. So over the long period of time, ethics is more beneficial than unethical acts, right? It builds reputation, it creates allies, what we call as goodwill also. There are examples. Gandhi's refusal to compromise truth even in the gray zone, and that's why we call him father of the nation, right? So finally say that in gray zones, there is a personal ethics which remains reliable compass. Where rules blur, values clarify. In public service, that clarity is the courage. So you need courage to adhere to the dharma, to adhere to the principles which are going to benefit the people ultimately. Okay, so these were the questions for today. We're going to post next set of questions tomorrow, 9 a.m. Do post your questions and the discussion will follow by 9 p.m. Thank you to all of you. Keep writing.